Shadow, shadow on the wall, are you the blackest of them all? Are you sick and tired yet of hearing people talking about integrating your shadow and not really understanding, comprehending what they are talking about? Because many people have no idea how to integrate a shadow when they haven't even healed it. If you integrate your shadow and decide that that dark part of you, that damaged part of you, can be integrated into the spiritual, wise, peaceful part of you, then you are very much mistaken. It cannot be done. And if it is, that's not integration, but if you do carry on living your life, doing the holy mission, the oneness, the evolvement, being part of the evolving collective, and you integrate a damaged the damaged part of you is the damaged holy part of you, right? So I ought to have illustrations here, really. Excuse me, somebody doesn't want me to be doing this. A lot of people don't want me to be doing this because they are scared of going inside themselves and healing the shadow part of themselves. And really, it's not that bad when you do the right techniques, which are already on a playlist called Fast Track to Cosmic Consciousness on my own channel, and have been there for the last 2 years. And I point all the people that I work with one-to-one to that so that they can see and listen to that little short video called Healing Your Shadow Self, Healing Your Inner Child, because that's what it is. It's a part of you that's missing from the whole of your beautiful, universal inner child. And that's the part that we have to have whole. So the words on the street are integrate your shadow. Well, yes, eventually that is what you do. But first you heal your shadow self. You need to go in and heal the shadow self. And the technique that I came up with was a conglomeration, if you like, of a lot of things that I was seeing, being spoken about, hearing about, and reading about in I'm trying to think when this was, the 80s. Okay, and I really knew that I was seeing my shadow, calling it the green gremlin, and I needed to heal it. And I was there was one clever clown out there who came up with the idea, and this may have come from something in the Bible, or, the atrocity Bible that came out of the church, editing and taking manuscripts and picking which manuscripts they wanted in there. And none of the sacred teachings of the Nazarene went in the Bible as clear as they should have done. Even the bits that say everything, what was it? He said, I won't get these words totally accurate. Excuse me for this. But it's everything I can do, you can do and will create more. But it's not exactly those words. The create word is correct. I always used to say it in the classes that I ran to help people understand that we're all healers, and I would work with them with the whole way of putting that into action and tuning in and being able to do laying on of hands, healing. This was way before Reiki came into being, and there were a lot of people that turned up who had been taught at school that only the Nazarene, or if you want to call him the Christ, call him Jesus Christ. I call him the Nazarene because that's how I see him, as the Nazarene that he was, and he was called at the time, and he was the one who was not into religion one iota, and he certainly wasn't a Christian. That came much, much later. Like really 350 onwards, it came into being AD, it came into being. So he wasn't a Christian. But he, in his part of his teachings, and that one thing is in the Bible about that, the one line that he said, everything you see me do, you will do, and you will create much more. Anyway, it's a wonderful saying. And I used to say that to appease the folks who were in my class so that they understood that this is what he would said, and that is one of the very few sayings that's truthful that he did say. And there are many more in the lost manuscripts, the lost parts that never got in the Bible, because the bishop at the time definitely did not want people to have their freedom and the knowledge about who they really were, and that they had the ability to start using the Christ Spirit in themselves and be healers, just as the Nazarene was. But I'm diversifying a little bit here, but what I'm talking about here is understanding who we are. So this is the part of us. We need to be that universal child part, connected to our whole spirit self. Okay. And in order to do that, the shadow self definitely has to be healed. And if you are going to heal your shadow, you need to go back into definitely the archetypes in your life. And the two main archetypes to begin with are our mother and father. Even if they were missing and you were adopted, you need to do that, because you're then dealing with a missing father, a missing mother for that child, who then grew up knowing they were handed over to somebody else. If you had foster parents or you had adopted parents, you still need to do this, because we did not one of us on this planet, I don't think, and this is having had a 40-year career as a therapist on this level with people, I never met anybody who was brought up by conscious parents. So because of that, because it was that time that we incarnated, the future is going to be different, because people now are going to be healing them. They are healing themselves. But what's going to happen is we now have conscious young people who are working on themselves. They're healing themselves. All their gifts are coming through, and they are going to birth children. And those children have the possibility of not needing to form a shadow self. Are you getting this yet? Because this shadow is not an integral part of who you really are. It's a dark shadow that was formed in order for you to survive, that you didn't come through conscious parents, and there were going to be lots of things happen that are going to hurt you and turn you into something you don't want to be. So you form this shadow. I mean, there's many types of shadow. A lot of people focus on the hardened, like warrior shadow, violent shadow, fighting back shadow. But the victim is as bold out there as that warrior shadow. And also, what about the comedians? I mean, I've had horrific cases in my therapy room back in UK where somebody, I'm picking up intuitively that there's something really big in their background. And we're like coming through with abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. We're coming with depravity. We're coming through with incest, all sorts of things. And I've had a couple of clients who smile and beam and laugh through us talking about it. And that is a pretty horrendous shadow. And it's as deep and it is as unhealed as the warrior and the victim. I've seen it all. And this part of ourselves, I got into this shadow work, which I then specialized in, because mine I was calling the green gremlin. If somebody triggered mine, and I have some memories from way back when I was really tiny, and one stands in my mind where I don't know what happened leading up to this, but I know that I was being taken to school for the first time, and being left. And my mother wasn't the sort of woman who would speak up and take over, really. She was quite a victim to my father. And all I know is that I kicked and kicked and kicked the headmistress who came out to force me into that school. And she got hold of me in a way that triggered something that I don't even remember. But what actually happened, that was the core of it, or one of the cores, because there could have been one going earlier than 5 that was even worse, which I haven't recorded and I don't really need to now. But what happened was later there was 2 relationships that I had where the men were really in their shadow, and their shadow, and this is interesting, was to close down. And one had a perfect way of doing it. I couldn't believe this, that he had devised this way. But I mean, now I understand the whole story. I know why. But what he did at the time, and this was before I healed my shadow, was he said, I need to take, I think it was 10 days or 2 weeks. And then I'll see you after that, because we'd had an argument and I was standing up for myself and he wanted his way and that I would accept what he was saying. And I laughed, got on with my busy life. And this was when I was in my early 30s. And then when we met up, he had completely, I mean, this was something I didn't know about. He'd completely closed down emotionally. It was like meeting a dead person, had the same face, the same body. And he had done this previously, which I found out much, much later. But he completely closed down. So I went to him before I knew this, that he had done this and that it was even possible. I went to him with my arms open thinking, he's missed me, because we had a very, very deep soul connection. And I put my arms out and he was a big, tall man, like over a foot taller than me. And he grabbed my hands to stop me touching him, because that would have been the worst thing for this awful, soulless, dead shadow that I was now in front of. And he held me. Well, what he didn't know was that, I obviously triggered him when I didn't give in to him on the first argument. And I triggered his dead, soulless, close-off shadow. But what he triggered was my green gremlin, and my legs started kicking out. I had absolutely no control. His legs, I think, were black and blue afterwards. And eventually, he let go of the grip and we parted ways. We never really became a couple after that. But for me, it was incredibly fascinating. Yes, I knew that I really had to heal my shadow self, because that was going to happen again. Because it happened in a second. The trigger had triggered. And the gun was going off from my legs. And it was horrendous. And what he also opened up in me was the possibility that people have this, men particularly, because I met many clients after this and saw it again many times, but not as horrendously as I saw it in him, because he was somebody I had a soul connection with. But I saw it in clients where and in fact, I realized what had happened to me with the man that I had 3 children by, because he'd had this other life that he lived. I also saw this at one point I think it was 3 clients who were all going through the same thing. And this is how the universe teaches you as the therapist. And I really had to understand it. How men, they were all living, and some of them it was horrendous. Like some people had whole families where somebody thought that was their partner for life and another person thought it was their partner for life. Mine with the guy, previously to this other guy whose shadow closed down, I hadn't really understood what he did, but he did say that he never ever thought about me when he was with all the other people he went off with, whilst I was at home thinking I had this, and it was all very happy and complete with 3 children. So a shadow is that part that is uncontrollable and triggered. And I'm giving you a few ideas of different shadows here. Of the comedian, the girl who sat and laughed as we talked about the horrendous stuff that went on in her life. And then it did in her adult life too, and that was even more horrendous. And the smile was still there, and it's eerie, it's horrible. Excuse me, but that's a shadow. And there are many people who do not want me to carry on talking about this. I'm losing the throat chakra here, which was perfectly fine when I started. So, comedian, victim, poor me, you know, the people who always go back to the child that was hard done by, and they're like 50 now or something, and there's still that child that goes back to that. Or what other ones? We've got really corrupted ones, haven't we? We've got ones where, you know, they have terrible things happen to them. I mean, we have a world of corrupted sexuality through things that happen to, in particular, we have to say this, with what's gone on the world stage recently with men. And they're powerful men that are highly intelligent, but they're totally corrupted by how they were first touched sexually by somebody who should not have done that. And however bad that went, that part of them, and this is what you need to understand, that part of you that was damaged and is the core of the shadow, whatever type of shadow, however disgusting it is in its kind of desires, what it truly is, and this is what people don't understand about this whole Epstein thing, all of that, is that these men, what it is the universal child calling for another sight of this and another feel of this so that it can be healed. But they're never told that. So they keep lusting over young, nubile children, girls, boys, if they were abused at a boarding school in England. So many clients that I had. And there's a whole movie that somebody's done about the abuse in boarding schools, which I'm hoping to watch at some point. I saw it come up on one of the internet channels. And it's so bad that that person, even though they are really, a normal sexual person, they have a distortion, a mutation from the way that they were first abused. And I mean, it can be women too here, because there have been women that have abused their children sexually. And there have been women that have not abused their children, have abused children in play groups and all sorts of things. So it's not just men, but the mass of it is men. And it's turned it into a cult across the world on the highest level of high-ups in our world. I mean, look at Trump and the things that come out of his mouth. I mean, I couldn't even be in a room with a man who speaks like that. I healed my shadow so long ago that it's really difficult. I mean, I found it really difficult to have a look and see who this Charlie Kirk guy was. I could only listen a few minutes, and his wasn't the abuse side. I mean, it was just the way that he was consciously, unconsciously set up, and how he was working with young people. I mean, that absolutely horrified me, angered me, horrified me that he'd been allowed to set up Turning Point or something like that. And all these people were like young men and young women, and he doesn't let them even get the words out of their mouth. But he is coming from such a corrupted, or he was. Rest his soul. God rest his soul. Because, I mean, I'm not somebody who supports that he was killed, but my God, that guy was so unconscious from the level that we are moving towards. He's so much an old school guy in his rigidity and non-understanding of anything subtle at all or emotional. And that is horrendous, but that will come from how he was mind controlled to the point that he was at mentally, because it was horrendous for people like me who are very open and very available on all levels. It made me feel sick. And that's crazy, isn't it? Because that wasn't even a sexual whole shadow thing going on. So what you're doing is you're needing to go back. Do not try and integrate your shadow, thinking I'll just integrate it in so that any time I can be that really kind person who listens to people and doesn't fight them on anything, because that's your victim. That's not balanced. I mean, bringing in every part of yourself is when you heal your shadow and integrate every part of your possibility into this beautiful, like, globe sphere that has it. Like, I can sit and listen to somebody for a long time who needs to tell me their story without cutting them off and without getting angry about it or getting into trying to change it in the beginning, because that needs to happen. It needs to be listened to, and then you can bring it in. But I can also be that person that says no to bad behavior that's coming towards me. But no, I don't have to hit out and kick them in the shins, do I? Because, you know, if I integrated my shadow and was boldly talking about that, I would be the one who still kicks the shit out of somebody who comes towards me and triggers me. I'm not that person. But you come towards me and you try and use me in the wrong way, damage me mentally, emotionally, or physically. My energy is subtle, but it's powerful. It's strong because it's an integrated shadow. And I am going to say no when I need to say no. And that will be the finish. You will not be able to finesse or come in at me and pick up the weak spots. Can you see the difference here? And me exposing my green gremlin shadow, kicking the hell out of somebody's shins, men. The last ones was 2 men, right? The first one was the headmistress of that school. I don't know what happened about that. I was treated very badly at that school, I have to say. There were things that happened to me that were very bad after that. So I don't know, because that was other teachers. But are you getting it? You cannot walk away and just say, oh, I'm meditating now. I mean, I love it when people start to meditate, start to learn the real awareness exercises that bring you into the now moment. And then you don't have to do it anymore. After even like a few months, you're automatically coming into the now moment because you feel better in the now moment, and you have a 21-day memory that's already set. So it keeps coming back. And then you learn how to be in the now moment by using your hands and putting the consciousness at the tips of your fingers in between the vegetables you're cutting. Remember all this from all the videos on my channel. But it's not healing the shadow. You can do all the rituals under the sun, all the praying to God. But if your shadow is not healed and you do not directly go into all those things that happened, and it's done very quickly in a written process, because the energy will rise from your inner child and will come out in words that you write. Look at the simple 20-minute process. Doesn't happen to everybody right away, but there's a lot of people on the verge now of knowing that their shadow's still there and they really want to heal it. And with those people, it can happen in the first session that you do. So check my playlist, False Track to Cosmic Consciousness. But what we need is the real healing of your shadow. If you had parents that really confined you to a certain lifestyle and would not carry on looking after you when you were a teenager if you did not conform to their beliefs, you need to do the statement. Like my statement was what I, Linda, felt about my father when I was a child was, and then you sit for 20 minutes writing the first word off the top of your head. And believe me here, 20 minutes feels like a lifetime, so put it on a timer. Because you need to keep it's the repetitive thing that opens up the subconscious. It always has been. It's like with meditation. You move through the barriers by doing a mantra or attention on your breath. Both are repetitive. Listening to music is relaxing. It's not meditation. It's not going to get you through the lower mind into the observer. And it's the same with healing the shadow. You need to do this 20-minute practice. And if you, at the end of writing the first word off the top of your head, and if it goes blank, you just leave it blank, you go on again, and you're writing it. I had a couple of clients recently who told me they were doing it, like on the keyboard. Writing is a process that's using muscles in your body. It's connecting to your body. So do it written, and have a nice book that you get where you're going to do your process. And if you do it for like twice a week, twice a week, and then for like 3 weeks, and then suddenly you're doing the same process, the same sort of words are coming up, and then suddenly the energy starts to rise from your solar plexus, and you can feel it. That's when you stop doing the written process with the statement, what I, Linda, felt about my father when I was a child was, you stop and you just write and write and write, because you're now in contact with that inner child. And mine were written all over the anger, because the anger is in front of the pain. I was so angry at this man who controlled our house. It could have been so much fun and so wonderful, and it wasn't. Do you see this now? Integrate after the healing. Because you're integrating something that's out of control. I'm going to tell you a couple of situations here now. I had I think it was 3.5 year relationship with a guy who was into healing and who I'd known as a child, and then came back into the same area that I lived in. And I was single, looking after 3 kids, and running a centre. And he started to appear in my life, and we talked about going into business together. And we did have an amazing relationship for 3.5 years. But what I found was there were so many lies he'd told about what he did. When I met him, he'd been running meditation workshops. And he never meditated. I just could not believe that. So over the years, I began to see like his tantrums coming out just before we were going out on stage and doing a awareness workshop, which I wrote all the information for, and he would come along with me and play a part in these workshops. And sometimes lectures that we do to quite a large audience. And the last time that we did this together, he had a tantrum before we went on stage, and I had to go on my own. I mean, I did really well. And I realised that it was nothing to do with him. It was my material anyway. But what happened at the end of that relationship? So I was already walking around with a piece in my wallet to remind me, this man is a fraud. He's a spiritual fraud. So I was already onto it and working with myself with this fact. Okay. But he then decided to leave the house and left me there, and that was fine. I just got on with it, got on with the business and looking after my children. But he came up to pick up some of his possessions. And that day he walked in, and I had one of my children at home who was having difficulties at school. And something triggered in him. We never hardly spoke, but the fact that the child was there, and it was crazy, because what he did was he came towards me with no warning at all and put his hands around my neck and tried to strangle me. And in those moments, my intuition kicked in. And I knew that if I fought back, I was fighting as his mother. He had this bombastic Austrian mother. And I didn't. I trusted what my intuition and the universe telling me to go limp. And I just went limp. And eventually, I had marks all around my neck. He let go. And what he said as he put those hands, I mean, I'm not trying to frighten you here, but this is a guy who had hidden it. I knew it was there. I was seeing it. I was asking him to work on himself because he had women clients that were acting really irrationally around him because he was not in his true wholeness. So he was flirting unconsciously with clients who were then throwing themselves at him, and he was coming to me for help. So I already was trying to get him on the path of healing his shadow. But what he said as his hands were around my neck was, you always put the children first. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever, because I was a mother who'd looked after those children with my partner, and then we'd separated because of his unhealed shadow, and going off and having this other life that I didn't know anything about. And then I had this man telling me I put my children first. That was no wrong of me, right? But what was happening to him is he was triggered. He was triggered because he didn't feel like he had the mother. She worked all the time. He was a one-parent, lived in a one-parent family. The father was nowhere in sight. And his mother worked and worked and worked, ran her own business. And it was crazy because he later, I mean, I never saw him again for a long time after that. And he was in the same area, and I saw him out somewhere, and he was at an exhibition, and he was then working with others with healing the inner child. And I asked a friend of his, I said, I hope to God that he healed his. She said, yeah, he did all the work. And eventually he came to me and he apologized to me. And did he apologize? No, he never did apologize, actually. What he did was he thanked me for what I taught him on our journey together, and that he was very grateful. So eventually, but I mean, I had to suffer somebody's hands around my neck. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm trying to warn you, because forewarned is forearmed. And if you're somebody who knows that they get emotionally angry and they're shoving it off, saying, oh, I need to do this. We need to do spiritual warfare now. If your shadow is not healed by bringing it all out, then you're in trouble. And you don't know when it's going to come out. Because this guy, people used to call him like the healer Jesus. They used to, some of the people behind his back, because he was so pious. And he was playing the healer. My God, he could have been a murderer if I hadn't have gone limp. Do you see this? Do not let your shadow run wild, thinking that you're now a spiritual warrior. I've never had to fight and use violence spiritually. I use my decree of saying that is enough. And it's the intent that I believe it that makes it happen. It's the fact that I'm bringing in the spiritual self from the higher levels that is me. And I had to do that, and I had to work so hard at getting that and believing that and knowing that I have a higher presence, that when I speak those words. And now I had something happening, because I have had a whole group of people who need, because of crimes that they've committed that I know about, they actually need me out of the way. And this morning, what I was getting was a totally new thing, was like pains in my head. And all I had to, and I thought, see, months and months ago, what I was doing was thinking, is it something about me? I mean, I'm a 100% healthy person. So it's like, it was strange that I was still thinking that. But until you understand and really get it, that you have this power of your spiritual being in this human body that you can pull in and use. But you won't be allowed to do that until you clean up your act a bit anyway. I mean, that's the whole deal here. And you need to be a meditator who can even concentrate enough and really have that awareness to pull it in. So it's all a journey, and it has to be done in the right order. But I can now do that. And within 2 minutes, whatever they're now on, because it's getting to the end of this cycle and they're really desperate now. And I think they need me not to be mentally clear. They hate that I come on here and do videos. And it's like they were attacking my head and my crown. And within 2 minutes, gone. And what I've done now is you've got to get to the point within yourself that you can say, this is gone forever. And that's what I did today. So it's totally the end of the cycle for me. And I've got better and better at this. This has been it's only been about 2 or 3 months. I mean, I've just been doing it and surviving it and being able to come through. But then it happening again, or it going on too long before I stopped it. But now I'm on it. I'm on it within seconds now. And that's loving yourself enough to know that life is not a struggle anymore. Life is moving fast forward to the new cycle, to the new world. And I'm part of creating it. So I hope, I'm not going to say that you enjoyed this, because it's not an enjoyable thing to understand all of this mutation, all of these people who are in control of our country, in control of all the countries. Most of them are men who are so unhealed. It's just crazy. And in all the big businesses, all the churches. Think about the abuse in the Catholic Church. Think about the ego money abuse in the Christianity. It's all wrong. It's all mutation. We're part of transforming this, but you've got to heal your shadow first. I hope I've given you enough information, but please put personal questions in the comments. I'm going to start opening up a couple of sessions that I'll do on readings for people, but these are life readings about where you are in that journey. They're not about the drama in your life. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in people healing 100%, and it is possible. Please like, please subscribe. These videos that I'm doing need to be out to a lot more people than are seeing them. Please back me there with that. Have a great day, but do take part of that day to start setting your timetable of how you're going to heal your shadow self, to become everything that you are, and stay in that harmony. Bye for now.